Welcome. You're listening to Sports Econ 101, the show where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Mike McDowd. Russell Jackman is off on assignment today, as Mike likes to say. Actually, the poor guy, he hurt his shoulder, and so he's having surgery, but we wish him well. I guess he can't come on with, hurt shoulder, can't touch the keys and the microphone. At each commercial break, we're going to ask a sports trivia question, and today's theme is miscellaneous trivia. You guys always kind of seem to like that. Keeps you in suspenders. Next segment, we are going to have a guest. A couple of quick things that. Not sure if we're going to get to this, but I wanted to ask you guys, like, what do you think about this Emirates Cup? I mean, I think isn't that new this year? And it's like the second year's having it. Yeah, it's I don't know. It's just kind of a weird sort of a tournament within a tournament. I don't know. I don't quite get it. But also,
did they play last year?
Yeah,
Yes, but it wasn't called. Emirates
like
sponsored it this year because they're sponsoring the referees. Emirates Airlines has really stepped up with a lot of money. NBA likes money, so.
Oh yeah, and Michael, who was that voice that we just heard? Who's going to be our guest?
Well, he's a guy that if you like college basketball, you probably know him already. But if you don't, we're going to introduce to him. His name is Matthew Driscoll. He is the head basketball coach, the skipper, the mentor. I don't know what you call coach, the manager. He does it all. His name is Matthew Driscoll. He's one of the best in the business. I consider him a friend. Really honored to have him on this Thanksgiving weekend. And man, he's so good at what he does as a coach, as a person, and it's going to be fun. And before we get to Matthew, when we come back from there, we got to run down that top 25 college basketball stuff. Woo! The West is bad. The West is bad.
All right, audience, stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. Don't touch that dial. We are going to be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown along with Mike McDowd. Mike, please introduce our guest.
If I must, before we get to introducing our guest, I looked at the top 25 college basketball rankings. And while we've kind of talked about the weakness of the West in football, holy cow. Can it get any worse? Gonzaga, number 3. I think Arizona's 24th. Are you serious? I mean, I'm going to get lit up about it. I mean, this is ridiculous. What is going on in the West? Please, anybody.
I'm a national voter, FYI.
Okay, well, we can get your opinion. You're hearing the voice.
I give one every Sunday night in my vote.
Man. Okay. Well, we want to hear your perspective on that one. Hey, with us today on, of course, Sports Econ 101, we go coast to coast, border to border. We also want to thank our U.S. military folks who serve this great nation, especially this Thanksgiving weekend. I know that our guest has a connection with the military. We welcome in the one and only Matthew Driscoll, 16th year at the University of North Florida, the Fighting Ospreys. He is a coach that knows this game so well. I know for a lot of our folks don't know him. And Edward, Coach is a guy who literally is out on the court. I've never seen a head basketball coach sweeping a floor. This is nobody saw. I was just walking around the arena one day and I see coach sweeping the floor. I said, excuse me, but how many head coaches sweep the floor? They don't. But coach views his profession with such passion and love. Coach Matthew Driscoll, thank you so much for coming aboard. And I definitely consider you a friend, and welcome to the family.
Well, thank you for having me. And in Mark 10:45-ish, I believe it says, I came to serve, not be served. And so it's hard for you to ask your people to serve, right? And I think in business, right, I think one of the biggest things in business when you're talking about leadership or you're talking about followship, right? There's two things, right? Sometimes leaders got to lead, sometimes leaders got to follow. And so the one thing you got to do is set examples of what that looks like and be a role model of what that looks like. And so nothing's too big, nothing's too small. And
Exactly. I'll give you a quick, very, very short story. So I was the CEO of a real estate lending company some years back. And there was a time when we were trying to close a deal very, very quickly. And so there was a lot of certain kind of paperwork that was for the experts who worked underneath me, right? Well, it got to be lunchtime. And so I just went and said, hey, okay, guys, what can I go out and get you for lunch? I'm going to be the errand boy right now. It doesn't matter that I'm the CEO, because like you said, job has to get done. No one's too big or too small to do it. So I
That
appreciate.
was actually one of our things the other day. We talked about the body has many parts.
Yeah,
None more important than another.
exactly.
If the ear wants to be an eye and you ain't got no ears and you can see everything but you can't hear, then things
Yeah,
don't function well. So
yeah,
I think, when you look at the grand scheme of things and what we do, I've been doing this for over 38 years and 16 here at the University of North Florida. From a business perspective and from how that translates, this is a business. This
yeah,
is the
yeah.
second most important seat, in my opinion, in the university. It's not me. It's who's ever in this men's basketball seat because we don't have football. And so when you talk about this top 25 and what the West looks like, or in basketball, what the West looks like, I mean, think about this. How many teams from the West aren't in the West anymore? So now they're in the Midwest. Now they're in the East, playing in leagues that are all over the country. So the West Coast bias is no longer a thing because everybody's playing in all these different leagues, but the leagues are so grand, they're so large, there's so many teams. At some point, somebody's going to win and lose.
Yeah.
And so it's when you look at like Maui right now in the West, you talk about the tournament. Last night, I think there were teams were 39-2 coming into the tournament. And I think 6 of the 8 teams were in the top 25 in the country. Auburn's down 18, number
Yeah.
4 to number 5, and they come back and beat them. Carolina's 12, and they're down 21 to Dayton. So I think as a voter, sometimes, Mike, we get caught up in, how things transpire every single week, but also too, who you're playing, where you're playing, how all those things. Let me ask you guys a question. I mean, and I like Kirk Cignetti. I'm a Pittsburgh guy. He's a Pittsburgh guy. His sister actually and I were 5th grade teachers. She was a 4th grade teacher. I was a 5th grade teacher together when I was teaching for 4 years. And so I love the Cignetti family, what they stand for. But I mean, how many teams in the SEC could beat them? Right? How many teams has Texas played that has had really, really good seasons or really good schedules already? So I think because these leagues are so big, I think sometimes we got to let things shake out before we can really start putting a label. We probably shouldn't do the top 25 until we get to Christmas, is what we should do.
Let me ask you, Coach. You mentioned that you're one of the guys who actually gets to vote on this top 25. How many guys like you are there, to get to vote, and how did you get that position?
So there's one per league in the coaches poll. So every league has a representative. So there's 32 of us that vote on the coaches poll. And so the AP, of course, is made up of writers and all kind of different media people. And so I was just, I'm the oldest guy in the league. I've been around forever. And so I've been doing it for, golly, I think 10 years, Edward, I think is how long I've been doing it. So maybe 12. So until I say I'm not going to do it anymore, then I still get to do it. But I take it serious. Now, a lot of coaches, they have assistants do it, or they have GAs do it, or they have other people do it.
There's so much money in this too, as a business, that, I mean, it gets really important when, someone moves up the ranks.
You'd be surprised how many people try to garnish your vote too. You'd be shocked.
It doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah.
It really
Guys I haven't heard from in years, all of a sudden, hey, Driscoll, how you been? Hey, how are things? Hey, hey, think about us in the top 25, because everybody knows who votes.
Yeah.
So I haven't gotten any like sandwiches or any kind of stuff like that. But I am a Dunkin' Donut guy. I like Dunkin' Donut coffee. So But that's not going to sway my vote. I'll let you know that.
I tell you, back in the 90s, I was appointed by the Department of Justice to be the chairman of a company that was that had entered bankruptcy, and it was like a $500 million company, and they're like 29,000 shareholders in California. I had to protect, right? And I remember one time, my attorney calls me, who's representing us, and he says, "Edward, I've got to ask you a really serious question." And I said, "Okay." He said, I was told by the debtor, because I was representing the shareholders, by debtors counsel that you were offered a $25 million bribe to basically tank and vote for the whatever the debtors wanted. And and so I was kidding around with him. I said, "Oh, I can be bought, but 30 million or 25 million is not enough. It's got to be 500 million, because that way I can just give everybody back their money." But I couldn't believe that they actually thought, I mean, I go, "Where's the 30 million?"
Hey,
but
did you guys see there was something yesterday, breaking news from somebody? They just found out that Macy's. Somebody had hidden 154. How do you hide 154 million in expenses?
Well, you do it over time. It's some delivery expenses. All right, guys, we're going to cut to our first commercial trivia question here. And again, this is all miscellaneous random trivia questions. And to remind Coach and Michael, if you know the answer, because this one isn't that hard. I made him a little bit easier this time. Last time I had him a little bit too hard. Mike, every time I'd ask a question, he'd throw his hands up like, "What kind of question is that?" So this one's not quite as hard. But if you know the answer, don't say anything until we get right back from break. All right, first trivia question. Catherine the Great was the empress of which country? Catherine the Great was the empress of which country? All right. Like I said, I only had 6 years of high school, so I knew this answer. Okay. All right. Stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. Don't touch that dial. We are going to be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. One more time, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mike McDowd and our special guest, Coach Matthew Driscoll from the University of North Florida. First trivia question. Catherine the Great was the empress of which country? Now, Mike, you got out of the picture from the Zoom call. You didn't cheat,
did not.
You?
I did not look it up. I'd like to stay, and I'm just going to say it because I know I'm wrong, but how about Canada? Let's go with Canada. I know they love their empresses up there.
Canada. Coach.
Where is England?
No, actually, Russia. Remember Catherine the Great from Russia?
Russia.
No? Yeah.
We have a young man from Russia, from Moscow, on our team.
Oh, wow.
I should have known that. Hey, I'm going to ask him today.
You should ask him. He'll know.
I'm going to have him run lines.
Yeah, 1762 to 1796. Earlier in the other segment, we were talking about the Emirates Cup in the NBA, and Coach was mentioning it kind of, makes things a little bit more interesting. I do want to bring up one quick thing before we get into exactly about that cup. I was just reading the chess world has been shaken up by what they call Fisher Random Chess, and I think it's named after Bobby Fischer. He made this popular, where the pieces in the back row, where the king, queen, bishop, rook, the horsey, get randomly placed on the board in the back. And this way the players are not able to memorize strategic moves, because, a lot of these chess maths just get really boring because these guys memorize, 500 different moves, right? It's probably almost like that Rubik's Cube, where no matter what it is, you can get, some of these experts can figure it out in 30 seconds.
No, 3 seconds. They get
3 seconds.
3 seconds. Right. Go on YouTube.
Yeah. So, and apparently the players are liking it because it makes it more interesting. And then people who watch it, these things don't go on for hours because of the boredom of the old memory. So in order to kind of shake things up, Coach, you were mentioning about the Emirates Cup in the NBA. They're kind of Adam Silver's kind of making something a little bit more interesting.
I think it's similar to what you said. That David Stern, obviously an amazing human being that kind of brought the NBA to where it is now. And you'd have to argue, obviously the NFL's the one, and Premier League overseas is pretty good too. But I think boredom was coming into play. I think guys not playing was coming into play. The quote load management was coming in too much. I thought fans were starting to have a discourse from what was going on. And so Adam Silver, they came up with this in-season tournament to bring excitement. Let me ask you guys, answer the question immediately. Don't even think about it. when you think of this new Emirates Cup and you watch it or whatever, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Hurry up.
Money.
Okay. Mike.
Christmas. I don't care about the NBA till Christmas.
No. The court. The court. Do you like the courts they play on? They're
True.
So they got so what they did is they've come up with this court design and all these different courts with all these floating kellers and it's really taken over. Well, what it's done is from a social media perspective, it's just driven their platforms. And so those people are really intelligent, right?
Yeah.
And so the players, if you get to the knockout round, they make extra money, they get extra pay. And you say, well, coach, they're making 40, 50 million. Who cares? Let me ask you a question. Warren Buffett, he doesn't like a couple extra billion every once in a while too, right? So like his letter yesterday, by the way, was really powerful. How he was dispersing his money. He was going to let his children do his money. If it's a 4-page letter, if you haven't read it from a business perspective, you should read it. But so the Emirates Cup is what does that. It also has led into the success they've had to now change the All-Star game. So the last couple of years, they started doing this thing called the Elam ending, where whatever the score is, whatever it takes to get to a certain magical score. And it's a number. And when you get to that number, like the team is losing by 20, you got to make 30 before the other team makes 10 to try to make excitement. So now they're going to do a 4-team tournament, 3 NBA teams, and then the rookie team. And then they're going to play a half time of basketball to 40. And then they're going to play another half that's going to be for the All-Star game championship. So they're really trying to help keep the fans and also to continue to raise their stake.
When I was younger, the NBA All-Star game, just like the baseball All-Star game, was really cool. It was really interesting. And then eventually, the NBA one, I just even stopped watching it just because, it was like no defense because I get it. Nobody really wanted to get hurt because, you have a big contract. And then, finally they came out with, the 3-point play to during the All-Star weekend,
the skills stuff. Do they do in baseball still? The winner of the All-Star game, they get the home field for the World Series.
I think
Remember they were doing that. Remember they were doing that.
Yeah, they were doing that. I think that might have changed, hasn't it?
Okay.
Yeah. Because if you think about it, I mean, I get the competitiveness just to compete, but to just go, hey, on the chance that we might get into the World Series, we want home field advantage. I mean, it's like,
I think you're right. I think they went back to whoever has the best record.
Yeah, that would make sense. That would make sense. So. Tell us a little bit about University of North Florida, because everyone's familiar with the Gators and the Seminoles. Oh, go ahead, Mike.
Listen, let's do it this way. If our friend, and I don't know if Matthew's met him, but if Dick Vitale were here, he would say, you gotta be kidding me. Matthew Driscoll at North Florida. Oh my goodness, this guy does it the right way. He loves the 3. His kids can shoot all day long. He loves his wife, Carrie. I see him at church on Sunday. This guy is prime time. He does it. He's got a great program. I know they're going to win the A-Sun, and I believe this year they're going to make a serious run for the NCAA tournament. No doubt about it, baby. Now that's the intro man that needs.
That was impressive. That was impressive, actually. That was impressive.
Okay, Coach, you're listen. You're in your 16th year. You're 4-2. You've had some prime time wins. Was it South Carolina and Georgia Tech?
Yes.
So your young team is really so far at 4-2. Playing good basketball, but of course that has to sustain during the season. But tell us about this new team, because you've done some great things in North Florida. You made the tournament in 2015, so obviously the expectation to go again is always there. But tell us about this team.
So I think this is a couple fold, and what I mean by that is, number one, when we first got here, we had just gone to Division I, and we had just finished a moratorium, which is a 4-year process where you're not eligible and you have to just, get beat down and it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything. And when we took over our second year, we played in the conference championship. And so when you look at our school, by the year 2028, we're going to be 25,000. Right now, we're 17. And President Lamayam has a very, very strong plan on how that's going to work and how that's going to look. In men's basketball, I know athletics is your front porch. Well, where the steps you got to, like men's basketball from a national perspective, can do so much for your university, for the value of your degree, for the value of your research, for grants, all those things that are critical. We've only been here since 72, so we're a little over 50 years old. And if you guys know anything about age, which I think we all do, as we get better with age, also too, we get much, much more wiser. And so we're using our time wiser, we're using our resources wiser. And so with what's going on in athletics, what's transpired since 2018 when the transfer portal started, all the way through COVID, all the way through what we're doing right now with the collective and how the collective look and what the collective looks like. With that said, where does North Florida come into play? 15 new players in the last 2 years, 8 this year. One player on the team that's been with our program more than 1 year and 6 games. So how do you do that? Your best player, after 4 years left and went to Tennessee for a large sum of money, which he should, and he did it for the right reasons. Though we developed him, it's still time. It's almost like your child. It's time to go out into the world, because at the end of the day, it's a business. We get hired and fired for winning and losing, and it's no different. So this seat's really, really important for the University of North Florida. The other thing is, as we move through what we do from a basketball standpoint, Mike, you never, ever, ever can take what you have for granted. And you always need to be, whether you're in business and you're flourishing, whether you're in business and you're franchising, whether you're in business and things maybe haven't come back the way you thought they would, no matter what it is that you're dealing with, your family, your wife, your children, no matter what it is, if you do these 3 things incredibly well, everything else will take care of itself. If you are disciplined to your commitment, which we are, and you're consistent in the way you are, then you're going to go 1-0 every single day.
Love that. All right, guys, you ready for our second trivia question here? Very inspiring. I love that, Coach. All right. What is the most abundant metal in the universe? All right, that's our trivia question. Which doesn't matter, is the most abundant metal in the universe? Of course, I don't know how they measure all of it, but universe is kind of big, but maybe they take a random sample. I don't know. All right, that's our trivia question. Email Edward at sportsecon101.com. The answer to this question, we'll see who gets that right. Which is the most abundant metal in the universe? All right, stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. Don't touch that dial. We're going to be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, along with Mike McDowd and our special guest coach, Matthew Driscoll, who says he knows the answer to this question. Which is the most abundant metal in the universe? Coach, the pressure's on.
First of all, I said, I think I know the answer to this. I didn't say I know it. I said, I believe the answer is Mercury.
Sorry.
No.
Man, I thought all those thermostats are all over the world. All that mercury's got to be the most abundant.
Mike?
Gold.
What's that?
Gold.
Gold? No, if it was that prevalent, it would be worth so much.
I know. I like to get these answers out.
That's right. Ready? Iron.
Okay. That's too logical. Yeah,
Seriously?
Okay. Iron?
Iron, yeah.
That does make
Mercury
sense.
has to be second.
Probably, yeah. I just make these things up. No, I'm just kidding. No, I look them up. All right. So our special guest, head coach of University of North Florida, Matthew Driscoll. So let's see here. Besides money, what else do you think has changed in college sports, and maybe specifically basketball?
I think from our perspective, the one thing that really has changed is social media, because
Ah,
from a lot of different reasons, and money is one of them.
yeah,
And so social media is awesome. You can really change people's lives. You can really do a lot of neat things with social media. Like, social media is really, really awesome. However, because of social media, so many people can get DM'd. So many people can hide behind a name. So many people can say things they want to say. And what's become more prevalent, and you're going to see these stories come out more and more, is the gamblers that
yes,
are harassing athletes and coaches, because gambling is so simple to do now. It's so easy to, I mean, they're sponsoring sports competition. They're sponsoring all kind of things. And so because of that, and the people's doing it, addiction to it, whatever you want to say, that part of social media, I don't think you guys understand when people say things to us, and like, you feel like threatened, you
yeah,
feel bad too. You feel like, wow, I apologize. That's nice how much you love her. It just,
yeah.
that part of it, the gambling part of it, because Coach Perkins has always said it, and it's so true. Just follow the money. Wherever there's
And,
money being made, just follow the money, and that'll answer all the questions.
Coach Matthew, gosh, you've opened up a Pandora's box. I'll tell you why. I worked with a junior college in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I remember talking to one of our football players, and I said, "Hey, man, it's pouring rain." I said, "Where do you live?" "Oh, just over there across the street." I said, "Well, hey, man, why don't I just give you a ride?" He's like, "Oh, no, 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 I can't do that." I'm like, "What? What are you talking about?" And I don't want the kid, it's a downpouring. So I'm just using that as an example because
yeah,
the just things have so dramatically changed so much. I mean, I can't give a kid a ride across the street to get him
correct.
out of the rain. Second of all, and then he proceeds to tell me, and I didn't know this, and I know you know this, but a lot of these kids, this is football now. The coaches weren't really encouraging them to get jobs. So I was shocked when he told me a lot of the athletes were actually taking food stamps to get meals. And I think that I understand that's somewhat prevalent in college, period. But I was shocked. So, but everything's changed so much now. I know you know these stories.
Yeah, my junior college roommate was on food stamps, um, and another one of our teammates was on food stamps as well too. So that was back in the '80s. But nowadays, just because of the landscape of what's transpired, there's a lot more opportunities for guys to do certain things or get certain things, or and what schools can provide them based on all the anti-law, all those lawsuits, those antitrust suits that have
Yeah.
come down the pike. And so now the revenue sharing is going to come into play, and scholarship limitations are coming into play. And so, but Edward, you would agree, I would assume, because part of your conversation, you used the word econ
Hmm.
from an economic standpoint, right? At the
Yep.
end of the day, the top seven, right? Those are the ones, right? S&P 500, like those top ones, like the rich always get richer, right? And so it's really going to come down and affect schools like us. Schools that rely on certain things. For instance, we've played over 100 money games, over $8 million raised since we've been here. And so some of those things are going to change too. So when you ask what's changed,
Yeah.
it's really those specifics, and how the larger institutions, it's because they get the revenue, they get the TV, they get to, those
Yeah.
big Power Four leagues, they get that stuff.
Sure. Let me
And
ask you, how
so
often do you get either parents or just other people you meet, giving you suggestions. Oh, you gotta play this guy. That guy, he's no good. Don't play him anymore, or that sort of thing. It's one thing to get like, a bribe, from somebody, but how often do you just get people giving you this random advice like they know better?
I would say, I don't want to say daily because I think that would be a little bit of a stretch. But I do get emails often.
Oh, yeah.
I do get maybe once a week. And it's really more, Edward, it's really more of why. Why did you do this? Or
Oh, yeah.
why
Yeah.
didn't this particular person play? Or why did you change defenses? Or it's usually more those.
Those guys.
Um,
And then what do you do?
you know what's fun? You know what though? You just hit something.
Yeah.
For 16 years, I've gotten a text from the same guy after every home game. And I told this to the team the other day. He didn't send it our last loss. And I felt like we didn't meet our standard of what our standard is. In the last 11 years, we finished in the top half of the league. 8 of those years, 4th or higher, 3 of them with championships. So our standards really, really high.
Yeah.
And I felt for the first time we didn't meet that standard. And he didn't text me. And it's usually brief when we lose. It's usually, man, your guys play hard, love the effort, get some rest. Tomorrow's a new day. It's usually those 4 things. And so he texted me the next day in the afternoon. Coach, just curious, how are those 2 kids that got hurt at the end of the game? They collided. I said, man, that's really nice of you to ask. They're both doing fine. They're both going to be okay. We're very fortunate. It was just a collision.
Yeah.
However, I didn't think we competed at the standard we should have competed last night, and that's what I'm most disappointed in.
Yeah.
And he responded to me, and he said, you're right. Next game. And then he sent it to me. So you could tell he didn't send it. He was pissed.
Yeah.
So I guess there's a 2-way street to that.
Yeah.
And so it happens more than you think.
Coach, you compete in the Atlantic Sun Conference, the A-Sun. It's a mid-major conference.
Yes.
You don't get all the bells and whistles, but you certainly have had some teams that done well. I guess Florida Gulf Coast comes to mind. But talk about real quickly playing in this conference, and a lot of America doesn't know about it.
I think when you're in this profession, the one thing you always have to understand is whatever your league you're in is the best league in America, because ours is even more fold. If I put the hand over the N and it just said UF, right?
Yeah.
And you took away our 5 to 6 games that we get bought every year that are usually L's, and you let me buy 5 or 6 that are going to be dubs, then we finish like we finish. They're going to put a statue somewhere for us about how great we were going to the tournament every year, because that's what happens at those big levels. At this league, only one team's going to the tournament.
Wow.
And so because of that and what you said earlier, like, I'm sure people want you to go back. I'm sure. Why haven't you gone back? Why have you won a championship and lost? Why did you lose in the 27 championship? Why did you lose in the semifinals in 2020 when you could have played Liberty for the championship when you won a championship? Like, so all that, again, goes along with his seat. And so when you only got one team that's going back to that 1-0, that's why we've always been that way. It is, every game is so critical. What we do every day. We just had this conversation yesterday with the guys. We weren't very good yesterday in practice, and I lambasted them. And like, yesterday's history, tomorrow's a mystery. Today's the greatest day we have, and we didn't move forward, because in life, only 2 things happen every day. We either get better or we get worse. No one stays the same. Nobody. Yeah. And so because of that in the league, I mean, let me tell you something, Mike. Like, as many teams that are still in the league, how about the teams that have left?
Yeah,
Belmont,
true.
Belmont NCAA tournaments, Mercer NCAA tournaments, East Tennessee State NCAA tournaments, right? Just to name some of those teams that were in the league as well with us. Liberty NCAA tournaments. You know, they all gone up to bigger leagues and more money, and a lot of it was football driven. So our league has always had really, and you look at Lipscomb, like quote unquote picked to win the league. North Alabama, JU, Eastern Kentucky, like, you know, you can go out to Central Arkansas, you know, who plays with North Alabama. Bellarmine, one of the best Division II programs that came into our league with Eastern Kentucky. Queens just came in, one of the best Division II teams in the country for years. Just came in, now matched up with West Georgia, who also just came into the league. Austin Peay got to the championship last year. They're matched up with Lipscomb. And then, of course, JU across the street matched up with us. And then Stetson won it last year. We beat them by 30 last game of the year. They're matched up with Florida Gulf Coast. And so, like, our league is really, really special. It's great basketball. It's a lot. We're usually one of the top 3-point leagues in the country. We were the best 3-point shooting team. 3 of the last 5 years, we've been the best 3-point shooting team. So
yeah, I think that's
it's exciting.
Just from a math standpoint, I would personally push a lot of the 3-pointers just because you only have to make, a third of them to make 50% of your 2-point shots. And then if you miss, you got a guy back there at least to start running back to on defense. Hey guys, let's go to our last commercial trivia question here. All right. So far, our panel is 0 for 2. Which country is widely known as the, quote, land of fire and ice? Which country is widely, I mean, I didn't know it's that widely known, but okay. Let's just say which country is known as the land of fire and ice? All right, audience, stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. Don't touch that dial. We're going to be coming right back with some closing comments. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mike McDowell, our special guest, Coach Matthew Driscoll of University of North Florida. A third trivia question: which country is widely known as the land of fire and ice?
Anyone? Go ahead, Mike. You're first. Go ahead, Mike.
I'm going to go with. I know they've got ice. I think there's a volcano, Iceland.
Yes, and that's exactly the reason why. Iceland, due to its striking contrast of glaciers and volcanoes. All right, and of course,
I'll be here all week.
We have to have our silly joke.
I was not going to say Iceland because transparency. I was going to say Rodney Monroe and Chris Corciani at North Carolina State. They were called Fire and Ice. Let me ask you this question. What's the largest city in America by land?
Oh, geez, come on. I know this.
Mike, don't you answer. Let's see.
I know.
What's the largest city in America by land?
Jacksonville, Florida.
All right, there you go. Okay, here we go. All right.
The only reason I said that is because he said Mike can't answer, and I knew it had to do with him. And here's our silly joke of the week. Okay, what time is it when the clock strikes 13?
What time
to get
is
a new
it?
clock?
1 o'clock.
Time to get a new clock.
Oh, we military? We celebrate our military on here. I figured 1 o'clock.
Coach, you're getting me again. All right, you guys ready? Here's our thoughts for the day. So I passed by a shop that sold only mirrors with a help sign in front, and I thought to myself, I could see myself working here.
By the way, why that store, I know it's a joke, why that store sold those is because one of the greatest things we can do is look at ourselves in the mirror and help understand who we are from the inside. And if we do understand that, we'll be so much better on the outside, especially when we are coming together as a group. So I think the joke was great, but I think there's a lot to that.
All right. And then why are actors in a movie but on TV? I just kind of wondered about that. And then lastly, what was the best
Yellowstone, by the way.
Yeah. What was the best thing before sliced bread? Remember?
Turkey. Happy Thanksgiving, by the way, everybody.
Yeah,
My
Coach.
dad delivered bread for 36 years, so I do have an answer for that. My dad, the best thing about sliced bread
Yeah.
is that I would eat Hostess Ho-Hos and Edam's cookies because the
Oh,
Ho-Ho guy and the Edam's cookie guy, they would all, get to the stores together. So they'd switch.
yes.
I'll give you a loaf of bread. I'll give you a thing of cookies. So
All right.
what was better than sliced bread, Edam's cookies and Hostess Ho-Hos?
And I'll go with the hostess ho-hos. Okay. Tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be discussing sports topics from a business perspective and asking more sport trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Happy Thanksgiving.